Egypt, Greece, Mexico. Why did all of them believe dogs are the only ones allowed to enter hell? It's not a coincidence. In mythology, they are called Psychopomps, conductors of souls. Whether it's Anubis weighing your heart, or the Cholo dog swimming you across the river of death. But why dogs? Why not cats or lions? The answer lies in a terrifying ancient secret about their loyalty that goes beyond the grave. Let's dive in right now. The concept of soul guides. Imagine the moment your heart stops beating. The screen fades to black. The noise of the world falls silent. You are standing on the threshold of the great unknown. You are terrified, alone, and the darkness is closing in. But then, you hear a sound. It isn't a choir of angels, and it certainly isn't a human voice. It is a bark. Familiar, protective, primal. This is where the ancient concept of the psychopomp begins. Psychopomps are the conductors of souls, spirits, responsible for escorting the newly deceased from Earth to the afterlife. It's a role that requires immense trust. You have just lost your life. You are at your most vulnerable. Who do you trust to lead you through the terrifying void between worlds? For thousands of years, across completely disconnected civilizations, the answer has almost always been the same: a dog. Now, you might be thinking, why a dog? Why not a lion for courage, or an owl for wisdom? That's exactly what I used to ask. But the more you dig into history, the more you realize this wasn't a random choice. Historians and mythologists agree that the dog's role as a guide is rooted in their behavior in the living world. They guide our herds, they guard our homes, and they lead the blind. It only makes sense that ancient humans believed this loyalty extended beyond the grave. But here's the part that genuinely gives me chills. This isn't just one culture's fairy tale. From the frozen tundras to the scorching deserts, the spirit dog is a universal constant. It makes you wonder, did our ancestors know something about the spiritual nature of dogs that we have forgotten? Or is there a biological reason we feel safer with a canine by our side, even in death? But before we answer that, we have to look at the specific legends, because some of them are far more terrifying than others. And trust me, the first one on our list will make you rethink how you treat every animal you meet. Xoloitzcuintli, the Aztec spirit swimmer. Let's travel back to ancient Mexico, to the time of the Aztecs. Here, the journey to the underworld, known as Mictlán, was not a simple walk through the pearly gates. It was a brutal 4-year voyage through 9 levels of hell. You had to cross mountains that crashed together, withstand winds that cut like obsidian knives, and navigate endless darkness. But the final and most dangerous test was a massive, raging river called the Abano. This is where the Xoloitzcuintli, or the Xolo dog, comes in. You've probably seen them, the hairless dogs that look like living statues. To the Aztecs, they were sacred. They believed that when you arrived at the riverbank, the soul of a Xolo dog would be waiting for you. But here's the catch, and it is a brutal one. The dog doesn't just help anyone, the dog judges you. According to Aztec mythology, the dog would look into your soul and review how you treated animals during your life on Earth. If you were cruel to dogs, if you kicked them or let them starve, the Xolo spirit would refuse to help you. It would leave you stranded on the riverbank, doomed to wander as a lost ghost for eternity. Personally, I find this to be the ultimate karma twist. It's a powerful moral check. It forces you to realize that your actions toward the helpless define your ultimate fate. However, if you were kind and respectful to dogs, the Xolo would gladly let you climb onto its back. It would swim you safely across the treacherous waters to the final resting place. This belief was so strong that Aztecs would often bury a Xolo dog alongside their dead to ensure they had a guide. It sounds extreme to us now, but think about the level of trust that implies. They literally bet their eternal souls on the loyalty of a dog. But while the Xolo guides you into the afterlife, there is another dog, thousands of miles away, whose job is to make sure you never, ever leave. Cerberus, the terror of Hades. If the Xolo is the benevolent guide, Cerberus is the nightmare you pray you never meet. We are moving from the rivers of Mexico to the gloom of the Greek underworld, Hades. Here, the dynamic changes. The dog isn't a swimmer, he is a warden. And he isn't just any dog. Cerberus is famously depicted as a massive hound with 3 heads, a serpent for a tail, and snakes growing from his back. Classic literature describes him as the ultimate gatekeeper. He sits at the entrance of the underworld, but his job description is unique. He is surprisingly friendly to new arrivals. He wags his tail and allows the dead to enter Hades without a fuss. It's a trap, of course. The terror begins when you try to leave. If a soul attempts to escape back to the land of the living, Cerberus transforms into a vicious beast, devouring them whole. This myth taps into a very deep, primal human fear, the finality of death. Cerberus represents the point of no return. You can check in, but you can never check out. Personally, what fascinates me most about Cerberus isn't his 3 heads, but what he represents about the Greek view of dogs. They saw the dog's protective instinct, but they amplified it to a monstrous level. A dog that guards a house is useful. A dog that guards the laws of nature is terrifying. There are stories of heroes like Hercules and Orpheus who managed to bypass him, either through brute strength or enchanting music. But for the average soul, there was no fighting the Hound of Hades. It serves as a reminder that death is the one boundary that cannot be crossed backward. But if you think a 3-headed monster is the most intense judge of character, you haven't met the god who literally weighs your heart against a feather. Anubis, the judge of hearts. We cannot talk about death dogs without bowing to the king of them all, Anubis. In ancient Egypt, one of the most advanced civilizations in human history, the god of death didn't have a human face. He had the head of a black jackal. Anubis is perhaps the most iconic image of a psychopomp in history, but his role went far beyond just walking you to the door. He was the ultimate auditor of your life. The Egyptians were obsessed with the afterlife. They spent their entire lives preparing for it, and waiting for them at the end was the Hall of Two Truths. Here, Anubis would take your heart, which contained all your deeds, memories, and sins, and place it on a golden scale. On the other side of the scale, he placed the feather of Ma'at, representing truth and cosmic order. This image is powerful. Imagine standing there, watching a jackal-headed god manipulate the scales that determine your eternity. If your heart was light, unburdened by sin and guilt, you passed on to the field of reeds, paradise. But if your heart was heavy with wickedness, well, this is the part they didn't tell you in school. You weren't just sent to hell. Your soul was thrown to Amit, a crocodile-lion-hippo hybrid, and you were eaten. You ceased to exist. Total oblivion. The choice of a jackal for Anubis is fascinating. In reality, jackals were often seen scavenging around shallow graves in the desert. The Egyptians could have seen them as pests. Instead, they flipped the script. They revered the jackal as the guardian of the dead, turning a scavenger into a protector. It's a brilliant example of how humans use mythology to cope with their fears. They took the animal that might desecrate a grave and made him the god who protects the sanctity of the grave. But the question remains, why does this specific animal archetype appear everywhere? The universal mystery of spirit dogs. We have looked at Mexico, Greece, and Egypt, but the list doesn't stop there. In Persia, Zoroastrians believed that a dog's gaze could drive away evil spirits from a corpse. In India, the god Yama has 2 4-eyed dogs that guard the path to his realm. In Northern Europe, the mythical Garmer guards the entrance to hell. This is where things get intellectually spicy. How did civilizations that had absolutely no contact with each other, separated by vast oceans and thousands of years, all land on the exact same idea? Jungian psychologists might call this a collective unconscious, a shared library of symbols hardwired into the human brain. But I think it is simpler and more profound than that. Think about the nights our ancestors spent in the dark. Before electricity, the night was a terrifying place filled with predators and unknown dangers. Who was sitting right there, next to the fire, facing the darkness, ears perked up, growling at things the humans couldn't see? The dog. The dog has always been our barrier against the unknown. They can hear frequencies we can't. They can smell adrenaline. They can sense danger long before it arrives. It is a natural psychological leap to believe that if they can protect us from the dangers of the physical night, they can also protect us from the eternal night of death. This universal mystery isn't a coincidence. It's a testament to the profound psychological bond between our species. We literally cannot imagine being safe without them. Why dogs were chosen as guides? Let's break this down with a bit of evolutionary science. We didn't just tame wolves, we co-evolved with them. Over tens of thousands of years, dogs learned to read human facial expressions better than chimpanzees, our closest genetic relatives. We learned to rely on their senses to survive. This codependence created a unique dynamic. The dog became the liminal animal. Liminal means existing at a threshold. Dogs exist on the boundary between nature and culture. They are animals, beasts with teeth and claws, yet they sleep in our beds and understand our words. They straddle the wild and the civilized. In mythology, death is the ultimate threshold. It is the border between the known and the unknown. Who better to guide you across a border than a creature that lives on the border? A cat is too independent. A horse is a prey animal, too flighty. But a dog? A dog is a predator that chooses to protect. That specific combination, power controlled by loyalty, is why they were chosen. Furthermore, dogs have an uncanny ability to navigate. There are countless real-life stories of dogs finding their way home over hundreds of miles of unfamiliar terrain. If a dog can find its way home across a continent, surely it can find the path through the afterlife. It creates a sense of safety. Even if you don't know the way, your dog does. Is your dog watching the dead? So, where does that leave us today? We don't build pyramids anymore, and we don't worship jackal gods. But ask any dog owner, and they will tell you the same story. You are sitting on the couch, late at night, and suddenly your dog wakes up. They stare intently at an empty corner of the room. Their hackles raise. They let out a low, soft growl at absolutely nothing. Scientific skeptics will tell you they hear a mouse in the wall or a car engine 3 blocks away. And sure, that's probably true 99% of the time. But in that moment, when you look at their unblinking eyes, you feel that ancient shiver down your spine. You remember Anubis. You remember the Xolo. Personally, I choose to believe there's a spark of truth in the old myths. Maybe they aren't seeing ghosts in the way we see them in movies, but perhaps they are sensing a shift in energy that we have grown too numb to feel. The next time your dog greets you at the door with that overwhelming, unconditional love, take a second to really look at them. To you, they are just a pet. But in the grand scope of human history, they are the guardians of your soul. They are the ones who will stand by you when the lights go out. And honestly, I can't think of a better companion for that final journey. So, treat them well. Give them that extra treat. Scratch them behind the ears. Because according to the Aztecs, you might need a ride across the river one day, and you definitely want them to like you when that time comes. So the next time your dog greets you at the door, remember, they might be practicing for your final journey. Applying just one insight from today's video on Dr.DogPedia changes everything about how we see them. Are you brave enough to follow them? Let me know what myth you'd love to learn next. Like, share, and subscribe to unlock more mysteries.